You're listening to Let's Talk Sustainable Business.
Welcome to Let's Talk Sustainable Business, a podcast hosted by the Conference Board's Global Sustainability Center. I'm your host, Claudia Lee. I'll be talking to leaders of global corporates and startup founders about how they integrate business and sustainability. It may be challenging, but these companies show that it is definitely feasible. Now, let's talk sustainable business. Today, I will be sitting down with Karen Pflug, Chief Sustainability Officer at Ingka Group, the largest franchisee of global home furnishings brand Ikea. IKEA's vision is to become people and planet positive. And to do this, the company has identified 3 focus areas: health and sustainable living, circular and climate positive, and fair and equal. As CSO, Karen leads multiple initiatives to help fulfill IKEA's mission to become people and climate positive. From transitioning to 100% renewable energy to inspiring consumers to reduce their carbon footprint. Hi, Karen. Welcome to Let's Talk Sustainable Business.
Hi, Claudia. Lovely to be here. Thanks for asking me.
So I actually firstly wanted to congratulate you and your team on IKEA's River Freight initiative, because I recently saw on your LinkedIn that you'll be starting to deliver items to customers in Paris via the River Seine, which I think is amazing. So I'm actually very excited to be here with you today to talk all about some of IKEA's sustainability initiatives. First off, I actually want to ask a little bit about your role as Chief Sustainability Officer at IKEA. Can you tell me a bit about what that encompasses?
Yes, sure, Claudia, of course. Yeah. So I've been the CSO of the Ingka Group for a year and a half now. And I come from a broad background of design and innovation, which I actually think has really helped me to sort of bring that design thinking to solving problems in a creative way. Because for sure, as you mentioned in the intro, many of the topics that come across the CSO's desk are very complex and often involve quite gnarly challenges to solve. So yeah, we are Ingka Group, as you also said in the intro, is the largest retailer in the IKEA franchise system. We have about 90% of the IKEA sales globally, with 68 million customers in our stores, as well as over 4.5 billion visitors to IKEA.com. So we are huge, and therefore the role that we have to play within the IKEA franchise system also means that our scope is very broad. But beyond IKEA retail, which most of the listeners will know, we also have Ingka Centres and Ingka Investments. So we have 3 different parts of our business. And the CSO role, together with my team, we're responsible for driving the sustainability agenda across all 3 parts of the Ingka Group. And we believe, as we are a multinational retailer playing in many different countries, of course, that we do have a huge role to play. And I guess on a personal level, it's also something I'm super passionate about, which also helps, of course, when it's your daily job. Uh, you mentioned in the start around the 3 different topics that we're driving: healthy and sustainable living, climate and circular, and fair and equal. We are quite a small team, my team that works under the group sustainability area. So a huge part of our job is making sure that our ambitious strategic commitments actually get delivered across the business. We have 170,000 co-workers that really need to take that with them every day in the decisions that they're making. So it's very much about how we work together with our senior management teams, but also with our co-workers that are facing customers every day as well.
Wow, that must be quite a lot to handle with such a big team, and all the decisions will have to relate to sustainability and relate back to IKEA's climate goals. So then, I guess before we talk a bit about how you actually implement them, let's summarize the main pillars of IKEA's sustainability strategy. As I mentioned in the introduction, I know it's split into 3 different pillars. So, can you maybe summarize a bit? Tell me a bit about each of these pillars and why they're important to IKEA.
Yeah, good. But I think at first, if I sort of talk a little bit around the strategy itself, what we call our people and planet positive strategy, and why we even chose the pillars that we did, and that was very much because we started with the IKEA vision to really have a better everyday life for the many people, and of course, when you have that as your vision, then we spend very little time talking about the why to our co-workers, to our stakeholders, to our management team. They all get the why. And then what does that mean from a sustainability point of view? Well, we recognize that there are three big challenges. There are many complex challenges, of course, facing the world today, but three big interconnected ones, which we wanted to solve with the strategy. And one, of course, is the climate topic and the climate crisis that we all know and hear about and actually feel and live through both as business people and individuals. The other is rising inequality as well. And the other one is around sustainable consumption and unsustainable consumption, and how do we really together play our part there as a multinational retailer. And then connected to that as well, you've got biodiversity and nature loss as well. And all of those are so connected. And we felt when we were writing our strategy many years ago, what are our answers to that? So that's how we structured the pillars. So we have, climate, of course, is a biggie, together with circular. And we see circular as an enabler to really solve many problems around climate, but also to help our customers to live more healthy and sustainable lives. So we have a pillar around that as well. So how do we really support with both information, knowledge sharing, and of course our products and services? And then we have what we call the fair and equal agenda or pillar, and that is very much about human rights and social impact as well. So a lot of our work is based around those three pillars.
I think that covers a lot of issues within those three pillars. Um, but before we dive into them, I guess I want to get to understand what the biggest challenge is for a company like IKEA to become a climate positive company.
Yes, also a very good question, I think, and
Mhm.
there are many challenges. And I think
Yes,
one
I'm
thing
sure.
yeah, one thing to really say, of course, is that we know that we're not alone with these challenges, and we have really a sense of responsibility as part of a wider ecosystem to make a positive impact as well. So that it's something that we're looking at solving these challenges and problems together, and certainly do not think that we have all the answers and can act alone. But we do aim to be climate positive by 2030, and that means for us, that's about reducing more greenhouse gas emissions than the IKEA value chain emits. Also, Ingka Group, of course, we are committed to the Paris Agreement, and that means contributing to limiting the global temperature rise by 1.5 above pre-industrial levels, of course. And we know that this isn't just about solving climate. If we leave people behind with the work that we're doing to transform into a climate positive business, then we're not doing our job. We need to move the whole sustainability agenda together. And I think we do it in three ways. One is what we do in our own operations, of course. The other is the way we enable customers to make choices that can help them as individuals lower their climate footprint. And the third is around advocacy. Because we are a large multinational retailer, we are watched, we are scrutinized, and we welcome that scrutiny, of course. And we feel a sense of responsibility and obligation as well, because we do have a voice and we can be a voice for others that do not. So, across those three areas, we really look at how we can make an impact. And then just to think about some examples with our own operations, then across Ingka Group with Ingka Investments, we've already spent 3 billion euros on renewable energy projects in wind and solar since 2009. And we've pledged to spend 6.5 billion by 2030 as well in total. So, yeah, we have an ambitious target there to really push the renewable energy agenda. And then we can also within that as well, we're looking at energy saving projects. So one thing is switching to energy, renewable energy, of course, and the other is very much about energy action plans within every building that we have. So Ingka Group is not responsible for the product design, development, and production, but we know we have a sizable footprint just by operating and having 400 stores in 32 countries and so on. So I think there's still a lot we can do here. So switching to renewable heating and cooling, renewable electricity, our ambition to have zero emission deliveries for all of our deliveries for customers by 2025. And so we've got a lot going on in different parts of our own operations as well.
Oh, I see. So, am I right in understanding that because Inca Group is a franchisee, so you wouldn't be as involved in the design stage of the product? So, in terms of, say, a circular economy model, you might not be able to be as involved in that.
Yeah,
Um,
yes. So yes, you're right. We are a retailer, so we're the franchisee, and it's the franchisor that designs, develops, and supplies the range. However, when it comes to circular, as the name suggests, it's not linear. So although in the traditional old-fashioned value chain, you'd say we were at the end of the value chain, with circular, you could say we're at the start of the value chain, and it's very much about what's our role as a retailer. First of all, you've got the sales steering towards more circular products, helping customers really understand the benefits, the choices of raw materials that have gone into more circular designs and so on. So we can support that with how we promote those products both online and in store. Then how do we help customers to repair and also replace spare parts, the use of spare parts, that's sort of delivered through us as retailers. And we do take back schemes. We're looking at how we share and join the second-hand economy as well. So we have a lot of initiatives that actually we can control as a retailer as part of the total value chain. And also now exploring how to get those raw materials all the way back through the value chain as well to do a closed loop. And then our Inca investments arm is very much involved in circular, particularly with recycling materials, but we can talk a little bit more about that later.
yes, definitely. Um, Going back to the point about the circular economy, I think it's very interesting that you said that actually you can also see yourself as the beginning of the value chain, because obviously if it's circular, the raw material or the used items and furnishings will re-enter the material stream
Mm.
and then hopefully be able to be reused. um, so I'm just wondering, do you work with IKEA's team quite closely, and IKEA's internal team quite closely, to make sure that the whole system flows?
Yes, yeah, we work extremely closely. We're sort of, very much in partnership, both ourselves and the other franchisees as well. We actually many of those, including myself, have actually worked for Inter IKEA, so more on the design and development side, and we're now in the retail arm. So we share our information and knowledge, and this can only work if we collaborate and work closely together across the whole of IKEA, but also, of course, in the wider ecosystem, whether that's with fellow retailers, other logistics partners, people who are innovators and driving new technology that we don't yet know about. So I think this is about that ecosystem thinking in order to solve the challenges around circular. We certainly can't do it alone.
Hmm. I love the term you just used, ecosystem thinking. Like, it really emphasizes how all the stakeholders throughout the value chain really needs to be involved. Um, can you tell me? I mean, even though that the idea of that is very grand and very idealistic, but with so many stakeholders involved in the value chain, it's quite difficult to really get everybody together to collaborate on something or build something. Can you tell me a bit more about how that works? How that actually works in reality?
Yeah, I mean, it can be right at the very start of our design and development process. We get the chance as retailers to give input into that process about customers' needs, hopes, and dreams. So we conduct surveys with our customers across all the different countries and get a sense check of how they're feeling around different topics and what are their biggest, what we call their life at home challenges. So that gets fed back into right at the very start of the design process. And then, of course, it's into IKEA's job to really focus on creating those products to the best of their ability, using the right choice of raw materials and so on, both for durability and sustainability. And then the other thing that's super important is making sure it's affordable, because we're not an elite brand. We're very much for the many people, and we absolutely believe that it has to be affordable sustainability. So then it's also about driving efficiencies right through the value chain, including in our part to make sure we keep prices as low as we possibly can for our customers. And then when we look at what we do with others, I was very excited to share last year about our food waste. Many people don't think about IKEA being a food retailer, but actually we're one of the world's largest restaurants. And I was very proud at Climate Week last year to talk about the fact that we'd reduced our food waste by over half in our stores, our production food waste in the restaurants. And that was done in partnership with a company called Winnow, which enabled some clever AI technology and weighing scales to really have a look at what was getting thrown away each day. And it's that level of consciousness and having awareness of what's going on so that you can, and having the right data, which helps people make more informed decisions and changes behavior, of course. So that measure, manage, and then ultimately then change your behavior meant we were able to reduce our food waste. So that was a great collaboration with a an external company as well. Yeah, saving 20 million meals over the last 4 years that we've been developing that with them.
Wow, that's so great to hear. And actually, you're so right. I keep in my head, IKEA is also mainly a furnishings company, but
Yes.
I actually also love IKEA's food. I love IKEA's meatballs as well. So,
Yeah. Well, you've
um,
got to switch to the plant balls now. They're brilliant.
yes, yes, I meant plant balls. I do. I am primarily vegetarian, so
Oh, that's
for the
good.
plant balls. Um, okay, so actually, going back to the raw materials and affordability issue,
Yeah.
um, because like you said, IKEA is known to be like an affordable sort of furnishings and food company. Um, at the same time, the when you extract materials, it's when you want high quality materials and you want to make sure that what you're doing is also good for the environment and not damaging the environment around it, the wildlife around it. I think a lot of people assume that that process in itself will make the operations more expensive. How do you balance sort of making sure you don't damage the environment while also keeping the prices of the items affordable?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If we use a tool, IKEA uses a tool called democratic design, which is very much about the holistic way of creating a product. And it has 5 dimensions around function, form, quality, sustainability, and a low price. And all 5 need to be in balance for every single product that we make. So we do work hard, very much. IKEA works hard with the suppliers in our supply chain, and we're very much about long-term relationships with those suppliers as well. We've been around for 80 years this year, and many of our suppliers are, we've had for several decades. So for us, it's really important that we have a long-term relationship with them. We have something called iWay, the IKEA Way, which is an agreement that every supplier of IKEA has to sign up to and then abide by. And there we have very strict rules. It's about working conditions, it's about animal welfare, it's about environmental monitoring as well. So what you do with their effluent treatment plants and all sorts of things. I was a bit more involved with that when I worked more on the inter-IKEA side. But that's something we've had for over 20 years now, the iWay approach. And you cannot be an IKEA supplier without that. So it takes a really holistic approach to ESG topics, and says, really make sure that we hold our suppliers accountable. And then when we look at raw materials, of course, the ideal is that we have less and less focus on virgin raw materials. IKEA is pushing towards being circular by 2030 with renewable and recyclable materials. And we're playing our part there with the Ingka Group investments in Retour Matras, which is a Dutch recycler of mattresses, saving over 1 million mattresses a year that get recycled into the Dutch. That's just in Netherlands, which is a relatively small market. So being able to take that product, break it back down to the raw materials, and save it from landfill as well. So we're looking at it in lots of different ways. Of course, our IKEA colleagues have a huge role to play, but it's also, again, as Ingka Group with our investment arm or our retail and centres division, what can we do as well?
Mm-hmm. So you've mentioned Inter IKEA quite a lot. With listeners who aren't as familiar with the IKEA group, can you quickly explain what that is within the IKEA, within the framework?
Yes. Sorry, yeah, when you're used to sort of phrases all the time every day when we work here, but yes, so Inter IKEA is the franchisor, sort of the holding body of IKEA, and then there are franchisees of which we are the largest. Ingka Group is the largest one, and then there are a few others in other different markets around the world, but we have around 90% of the sales. So obviously the largest partner for Inter IKEA. So they are both the franchisor and the designer, developer, and supplier of the products. So they are our supplier as well as our franchisor. So it's the way that the company has been set up to sort of work like that.
Oh, right, I see what you mean now. So Inter IKEA is actually the IKEA, the actual company, and then you guys are one of the franchisees.
Yeah, we're a separate legal entity, a separate company in our own right, but we are part of the wider IKEA family of companies, essentially.
Okay, got it. Um, so one more question about raw materials. Um, I think you mentioned that these suppliers are long term suppliers that IKEA has had many years of relationships with. So does that mean that traceability is not really an issue because you are able to trace all raw materials to the source? Because I assume that is always traceability is always a challenge with companies for companies that work with a lot of raw materials like IKEA.
Yeah, of course. Everybody who's working and producing things who wants to have a really strong business like we do that's run honestly and with integrity. I think we have very high ethical standards. And of course, that goes across whether we're working with suppliers or customers and the general society around us. Um, we have signed the United Nations Global Compact with the 10 principles in areas of human rights and the environment and so on as well. And as I mentioned before, our IKEA Code of Conduct, IWAY, is our big driver there. And that goes right through the value chain. So for the value chain for the products that Inter IKEA produce, which are the products sold to our customers, but also as a large multinational retailer, we have our own procurement of what we call indirect products and services. And that also means that our suppliers for those just to run our business have to be IWAY compliant as well. So we work very hard with those suppliers and we have audits and we can also do surprise audits as well with them as well. So it's very much about balancing and having a positive impact on the society where we operate. We obviously help provide jobs and economic growth in the areas where we operate, whilst also protecting the world around us and providing decent and meaningful work. So we look at it at all sorts of aspects when we're looking at the supply chain.
Yeah, Jess, I love that. I think the sustainability obviously encompasses so many different things, including both the social and environmental aspects. So
Yes.
I love that the Inca Group looks at it from multiple perspectives. So
Yes.
now let's talk a bit about the um, how you're involved in transitioning IKEA's operations into 100% renewable energy. You just mentioned that's quite a big step, one of the biggest goals for the next few years. So maybe tell me a bit about what you've already done, and what are some of the plans you have for the next few years.
Yeah, so we have been working really hard across our own operations because obviously that's the part that we can control as well. So we have been switching to renewable electricity over the last few years, which has been a big help as well for also saving money in these days as well when we look at what's happening with the prices as well too. So yeah, we have the 6.5 billion invested through Ingka Investments, as I mentioned as well at the start, which is a huge amount to really help us. And that renewable energy power comes to 2.3 gigawatts, which is apparently the annual consumption of 1.25 million European households. So it's a huge amount as well. So over
Wow.
five, yeah, I know exactly the big numbers. Over 500 wind turbines in 17 countries, 20 solar parks, and we also have just over 900,000 solar panels on the roof of our stores and warehouses. Because that's another great thing when you have large stores and warehouses and car parks, you can put a lot of solar panels on them. So we've been doing quite a lot of work on that as well. And so over the last few years, we invested 54 million euros in really looking at clear energy plans for each of our buildings. And the biggie there, of course, is switching to renewable heating and cooling, which is one of the big ones. But it could also be, switching to LED lighting and looking at improving insulation to actually reduce the amount of energy used in the first place, or energy recovery from that heating and cooling as well. So we're looking at all sorts of different ways. It can be putting smart meters into the buildings too, so that we again, talking like we did about the winnow example with the food waste, if you are informed with the right knowledge and information, then you can make better decisions to both save costs and save energy.
Mm-hmm. So does the use of renewable energy encompass all of IKEA stores around the world, or is it mainly in Europe?
No, we're progressing across. I mean, and we're not finished yet. We're still busy switching over, and it takes time and investment, of course. But it's something we're aiming to do towards 2025, and our vision to have 100% renewable energy by then. So we are focused on all different areas. It's certainly not Europe. We're only Europe. We have become a founding member of the Asia Clean Energy Coalition, which is really about helping to procure more renewable energy, and because it can be quite tricky in parts of Asia as well. And it's, again, as I said before, about the advocacy role too. Being a founding member means that you bring others along with you as well, to really help both Ingka Group but other companies hit their renewable energy targets, and have a positive impact on the wider transition in the region too. So, and we have just recently announced in Australia a 15% stake in a 1.3 billion euro a stage for a wind farm near Geelong. I used to live in Australia and I've been to Geelong several times. I can say it's pretty windy along the coast there. It's in Victoria. So it should work well.
Geelong is the I actually is that a city?
Yes, it's a city on the southwest of Melbourne.
Oh wow, wow, that's amazing. Actually, I'm speaking to you from Hong Kong right now, and like speaking to your point about how in some parts of Asia, clean energy is not so available.
Mm.
Even in Hong Kong, I don't like there is no electricity supplier that offers renewable energy. So it's great that you guys are involved in the advocacy work in this respect.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think sometimes even for somebody like for people who really want to do something, there are no options available. So I think there are many more steps that Asian countries or cities can take um, to transition to renewable energy.
I used to live in Hong Kong as well, actually, and I know it can be a challenge to try and make more sustainable choices in the city. So,
So one more question about the renewable energy initiative. I know that you also want to enable your supply partners to also achieve transitioning to renewable energy. So you also have on-site investments that enable them to sort of convert to renewable energy operations. Can you tell me a bit more about this initiative?
That is mainly run by our Inter IKEA arm because they
Okay.
are, yeah, as you said, it's mostly for suppliers supporting them, so that then we know that the production of our products for our range are used with renewable electricity. So they're doing a lot of initiatives to support suppliers to switch to that.
Hmm.
But what I can say is, in thinking of you being in Hong Kong now, that we actually have our first store generating 100% renewable energy in northern China, Tianjin Dongli. So you have to excuse the pronunciation there, but
Oh, so the Tianjin store is generating its own renewable electricity.
yeah, it's the first store to generate 100% renewable electricity for all of its needs in
Wow.
the Ingka Group. So, as I said, we're aiming to have a lot more of those. And it also, any excess electricity is exported back into the city's power grid as well. So, it's a great
Hmm.
initiative.
Wow. That's amazing. So this is the first store even counting IKEA stores in Europe and in Sweden.
Yes, yes. So we've done quite a lot of work to switch over to renewable in many of our stores, and including sort of new ones in Vienna as well was one, and
Hmm.
London Greenwich. You'll probably know that one too.
Hmm.
Was one of our most sustainable stores. It was the most sustainable store when it first opened a few years ago, and getting the BREEAM certification. But yeah, this one is the first one that's 100% renewable for all of its needs.
Hmm. Wow, that's great to hear. Okay, so actually we have a few more minutes on this section before we're moving on to the next part. And I would like to end with a bit about the customer journey. So you mentioned that um, because the circular economy is involves all stakeholders. The consumers are also part of it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, how do we get consumers on board this journey and for them to sort of encourage them to recycle more and also reduce their carbon footprint?
Yes, I think, of course, we have, we have millions of customers around the world. So if all of them make even a small difference to their lives, then it can have a big impact as well. But they have very high expectations of us as a large corporation too. And we know that they vote with their wallets. And I'm sure you've seen this as well with others that you've spoken to. So
Hmm.
we need to do the right thing in our own operations too. So it can't feel like we're trying to lecture to customers about what they should do, and then we're not doing anything. So a big focus, as we've talked about, is our own operations, but we absolutely want and feel that we should help our customers. One thing is making it affordable, of course, to make sustainable choices and healthier choices. So that's a big part of our IKEA vision. And the other is then to really make sure that we inform and educate them as well. And what we say would be nudging them towards making those better choices. And we have a lot of work in the food area to make choices towards plant based foods. That's one. But also in circular. So the choice, I mean, the final thing for a product would be to be recycled. And of course, we're part of that. I mentioned Ritual Matras and however we recycle materials, but the ideal is that product gets repaired, stays in use for longer, can be sold or given away and given a second life. So we've done a lot of work around taking back, which we started back a few years ago with the Buyback Green Friday appeal, and then that's not just now in around the Black Friday time in November, but is actually an ongoing topic that we have taken back a lot of products over
Yeah.
many years and then resold. Anything that's slightly damaged or an ex showroom model as well, we sell in what we call the as is areas. We've
Hmm.
had those for many years before circular was even a word that people used, and it's very much about customers being able to get an item for a lower price if they're prepared to do a bit of work themselves to repair it or whatever.
I mean, why not? Definitely. Like, I would always do that.
Yes. So we have those as is areas or circular hubs in 306 stores now, and
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely something that we've seen growing, and we've now switched to putting quite a few of them online. I think there's over 200 stores put it online, so you can view beforehand before
Mm-hmm.
you go into the as it is area and see what's on there and reserve some products too to sort of save you a journey there as well. So that's fantastic. We also we helped nearly 2 million customers with spare parts to repair their products last year. And yeah, it was
Okay.
105,000 customers actually that use the buyback and resell
Yeah.
services. So we're
Yes, I
doing
will
all sorts of
definitely.
things there.
Okay. I think it would be great if we can link to some of the take back schemes, so then listeners can have a bit of an understanding of what that actually looks like. But I
Yeah.
think this is a great place to end this first session, because we went full circle, like, which
Yes.
reflects the circular economy, and we're talking about how consumers can recycle and bring back the used items back to IKEA so that they can then reuse it. um, so let's end this first section here, and I will continue this conversation with you in part two, where we'll talk a bit more about the case studies, as well as some of the advice that you offer to other sustainability officers in similar situations who want to be climate positive and want to encourage a circular economy. So thank you so much, Karen, so far for all of your insights.
Thank
Um,
you.
and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Let's Talk Sustainable Business. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to our podcast series or explore the entire catalog of podcast programming from the Conference Board by visiting our website at www.conference-board.org. And if you have any thoughts to share with us, you can also email us at sustainability@tcb.org. Thank you.